Big changes, big changes, big changes. Hmm. I'm doing something using YouTube that I've had an idea to do for a really long time, which was to go through the OTO in a succinct manner in order to determine what it meant when I could not figure out what it was and how I found it. And it was, I couldn't figure out why I would keep a record that didn't matter. And it took my entire life to get to the point to recognize that this record that did not matter is that we were waiting for something that still had yet to happen. And this still had yet to happen is we had yet to take the Bible away from all religion. And this came out in a manner that I found myself a little bit offended in how long it took me to recognize why I would want to take the Bible away from religion. And what would I use as a record of where I would place taking the Bible away from religion and why I would do that? It would be we had a persecution point, and every prophetic statement of having been persecuted in all world history is the acceptance of the 9/11 jihad, is what I was able to figure out. Why wouldn't it be so simple? The why? I don't know. Because gotquestions.internetcult.org did not, they kept that legend of 6,000 year earth hallucination in a manner that was kept beside that. This one published within the time frame of a no more buying or selling of books, because we have this other situation problem going on, happened, that we're looking at everything that's ever been published in comparison with this single website that I'm explaining. In this single website of everything that's ever been published, having to do with we have an illegitimate record kept on the formation of the Bible itself, is what this why it's taking YouTube and why I'm explaining here. On YouTube, I don't want to go back to Facebook. If Facebook itself had a warning label, whoa, some people here might not be able to understand that they did not grow up from an animal, and you guys are in this weird animal mating pattern, is kind of what I'm looking at. Kind of, because you have these words called gnosis. A puff on every word, every post, something having to do with having a misinformed connective point in world history. To I need to take every verse, every letter, and turn it off for you. Gotquestions.internetcult.org, because you having taken God out of the Bible was the no more buying or selling of books capacity of world peace. All we have to do for you to puff on the Pope and say, we're sorry, Australia, for being an albino cult on this technology that Australia should have used to puff me off of this albino relationship we couldn't figure out when we magically pooped out at. So we refused, having been magically popped up into the year 1999, when I did confirm that when I was there in the Silicon Valley, I did confirm that we kept the James Escher chronology and actually transmutated in a green pattern of the white of what we ignored, with how I even missed. Oh, in 1999, when I began ignoring what I already knew I was going to end up having to do with the church I was baptized in, which would be to actually yank the rug out from underneath the pastor. He was hallucinating at 6,000 years of age, is what I actually had a gut feeling in my entire life with. And it was not until I was able to remember how I got into the OTO, it was a literal work will set you free. What would you do by memorizing the entire Bible in one pattern and repent for never telling everyone in that pattern that 100% of the world before you did not understand a single word, and their pattern is that 100% of the world that connected into this pattern got duped in a very, very simple Gnostic pattern. Puff on the Pope for getting gnosis wrong. The word. Why do you have all of this make everything new pattern? We were in this pattern of names, a pattern. Let me have God back from you. Got questions.internetcult.org and stop typing. We're in this super bad pattern, holding pattern, literal, where it's my church refused to repent at I've known my entire life. The only pattern that I can go back now is box after box after box after box of this type of stuff, and a 13-year pattern of coming to conclude that Alcoholics Anonymous itself, with just the scriptural reference to the Lord's Prayer and itself not saying, okay, on and off at mating cults, and we're getting children in this alcoholic black magic closure point, and I'm seeing that it's because of the ignorance of albinism. Children with part of their skull missing in Washington State, calling the Red Road people savages, having where the West was won. So a 6,000 year Earth legend kept of. I can't quite figure out what legend he's kept because it doesn't match anything you look. Okay, how did my church building get built in 6,000 years? No. That's how did God link in hemp to the wisdom of Solomon into the black magic portion of it. No, the Goetia. No, your maters, your pulpit preaching is you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong at pulpit preaching. That's why George Washington looked like this, and why he was. You're black. You're keeping something. I'm taking care of something else better for you, and that's why he has the memorials. And because you guys infiltrated on the wrong side, you infiltrated it where we're keeping racism. It's the transition of you lost at world capacity. The Bible doesn't give a shit about world peace. No. The 4 disciples Jesus sat down with, blessed are the peacemakers story, in it took me 13 years to interpret that 22 years was the story of you have no legitimate date record kept for anything. So I took the Bible apart at the record kept for illegitimate record keeping, and you could see Jesus was sitting there looking over the the four disciples, and it went out into you were told in the book of Matthew and in the book of Mark and in the book of Luke, in the book of John, you were told in those four, and this stitched out over here where you don't have the Jewish legend of Satan, and over here where you do have the Jewish legend of Satan, the black magic something. Take this 6,000-year earth hallucination off of the cross into the naming conventions of how you got duped. Dead Sea Scrolls. Jesus coordinated with Titus the destruction of the temple. The acceptance of the 9/11 jihad event in world history is that the persecution of the Catholic Church is at James Escher in Germany. And because of that persecution came true. The Jews received the Auschwitz work will set you free, which was literally the sinus clearing event of sniffing and then being offended when you see a picture of some kid just being playful, like, look at me, and I'm a cute zombie kid here in modern, and you're looking at that going, no, that sweet aroma of what happened there was to remind us the capping of the Dome of the Rock. We shall repent at female circumcision for these men and children. In the, I don't want to discuss that, the brain part missing pastors, the brain part missing pastors, my argument, the skull part missing in this encephaly, a world consideration point. Oh, let's use technology to see where we got it wrong at. How would I communicate to everyone? Well, probably Facebook. We got it wrong at, oh, the earth's older than 6,000 years old, Right on. Should have warned everyone. Missing part of their skull because they didn't consider it, in my mind, from the point of view of where we got it wrong for the Minucci of James Escher's daughter, who would have been probably about 21 years of age in a record kept doesn't exist, period. So I'm putting this record kept doesn't exist, period, into this record kept doesn't exist, period, into racism kept the savage record perspective, where I have red hair and the you got duped at Satan. Look at me. I don't know if that's a consideration God didn't have when we had the brain fart of keeping Jesus on the cross, or saying some weird legend we have to. It's such a huge legend. Jesus being on the cross is such a massive, huge legend. It's taken me my entire life to figure out how he even got on and what he was doing. And what I was not doing while I was distributing the Bible was figuring out how I was not accepting that something was wrong with it at that moment in place. So what I was to have been doing was saying, I just got here with this. How can we use this right here to better our relationships? And with that really, 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 really simple animatronomic, symptomatic evolution, we evolved, we apes 3500 BC, Egyptian gummy bears is a better non-hallucinatory statement of a 6,000 year Earth. Did we really just spend 6,000 years as apes? I have a legitimate. Did that just happen with the 6,000 year Earth hallucination? A 6,000 year Earth refused to repent hallucination. The only thing I'm able to do with I didn't find anything, but this pastor refused to repent on the Toppenish Indian reservation. And I'm left with a nagging, that's magpie medicine, new totem. They called them savages. I'm outlining for just here on YouTube a simple brain fart relationship with part of the skull missing in Washington State of these children. A simple one. In consideration of James Escher's daughter, with the best I can do with the data I've gathered. It is literally 6,000 years ago, an albino became fertile and began to menstruate, and we lost the albino's minergy into black, and we're left in hell, missing the beauty of not albino being not savage. And that not savage Minerchi appeared in Not Savage, Arizona in a savage approach with yet again the Catholic into that region. A 75 book, they didn't use it, but they used every tradition, and they had nothing they kept with it. And a simple erasure where this Minerchi I observed in Arizona, for example, Washington State doctors concerned. Confused doctors not comparing data. Her Minerchi was every 9 months. So this is a black weight. This is a prayer book. If part of the skull is missing, you missed Adam. Doctors. That's who'd you take out? You took yourself out of it. Took God out of the Bible. ungotquestions.internetcult.org. Magpie. I evolved it. I think. It's hard to tell because the Earth is not 6,000 years of age. Because it's hard to tell. The two just didn't keep record together. Magpie. The record kept was that of Savage rather than the. That's not what Kennewick Man was. World peace is the opposite of savage. Why would we be so savage if part of the skull is missing from children? And it has been a Menurchial pattern. If world peace was Menurchi, would it puff out every spider of the OTO? And the answer is yes. And I actually got my spiders to start to become obedient to me like my dogs. The persecution of the Catholic Church and the Third Reich. YouTube. A story on Facebook. I'm taking the Bible away from you. It itself was legend. If that makes any sense to me. Because that's what the Book of Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage told me was done. Through the Dead Sea Scrolls, which contain 4Q377, a memorization point. Why would I take that book out into the former USSR if that book was not yet recognized as never having been compiled yet? My search for that question is, it was never compiled properly. Everything around it was the legend. A 6,000-year hallucination. That's how.